Okay, hoping that this one actually saves. What do we need to do to establish our citizenship rights or responsibility in America as a people? And where's the team that would establish the process in which we oversee public services? I say it doesn't exist. And if it exists, I don't know where it's at. And because I have been involved in public education in regards to participating at the local level in California, finding it's very difficult to participate at the local level in Nevada, simply because many of the people who are serving in positions of establishing the process are not educators. They have jobs, they have full time jobs. And Nevada has a part time legislative piece, people that participate. It's a very short window to create rules for the process of how services are going to be established, actually. And so what I'm finding is that there's little or no oversight for the maintenance of effort as to who participates and who actually benefits. How can I say these things and how do I know? Well, everything here in Las Vegas or in Nevada is online. Actually, everything across America now is online. Any information that you may want to know about any organization should be publicly presented, simply because if they're utilizing any public funding, then the public has the right to know. Therefore, the information should be public. But programs that are operated by the federal government, actually, the information should be public also. And it's just amazing. It amazes me how the information is so public and guess it's so foul in regards to the success or support in the African American community. I want to say that, I'm not talking about immigrants or people who've come here in the last 10 or 15 years. No, I'm talking about the people who were actually born here and have families who have established, residency or who've lived in America their whole lives, generations. And we're not going back so far that we can't look back 150 years since the process of or the implementation of Brown versus the Board of Education. Brown versus the Board of Education, do we need to explain that? No, I don't think we need to go back. I think we need to talk about implicit bias. What is implicit bias? I think we need to talk about willful defiance. What is willful defiance? I think we need to talk about failed public services and social promotion. We need to talk about issues of end of year, data that should be turned into the federal government in regards to how they're supporting the states. And see, we all pay taxes. Maybe we don't all pay a lot of taxes, but guess what? When there's no taxes established around the buildings that are in your area and the property value, then they're not paying a fair share either. What's really being counted is the number of children who are actually located in any particular area. And when they put programs and services in areas of high poverty, doesn't mean that they're targeting the needs of those people who live in the community. Just means that that's where 100% of the poverty is going to be counted or allocated. So the insurance of how services should be established and the process in which services should be established are established. Building a following for community engagement or capacity building or what happened with Kobe Bryant. He passed, but guess what? He was not Maya Angelou. He was not Dick Gregory. He was not someone who had really created a change in this nation and had something, perhaps he had to do with our culture and what we accept as a people and the definition of how we should behave or who we are as a people and what should be expected for behavior purposes. I just really can't understand. I understand the loss because I see a young man who was just at the beginning of his life and who had the ability to understand that he was getting ready to provide a future options for the family that he had created. And now just to think that he won't be here. It's very painful to think that he won't be able to rear in, and that where we are actually for public services for our people. It's difficult. It's difficult to think about Philando Castillo, who was working in a public school, who was admired by the children that he worked in the school with, then to have a law enforcement officer actually pull him over and know that he was a license to carry, because we all know that when they get those tags, that every bit of information comes up about you and who you are. And for having him so fearful of his own public safety. Why are people so feared when they deal with young African American people? But guess what? Then we see acts of violence, acts of traumatized human beings just waiting to be set off and punch somebody, or be angry and react in a stupid way or a stupid manner. But guess what? We really, how should we look at these things? Or should we be looking at them? Or should we be just consumed with what things like what's going on in other people's bedrooms and the choices that they've made to live their lives? Well, I tell you, I'm not going to go too long because I really want to start drawing interest. I have to share these videos, these short videos, to see if there's an interest. And then you have to follow me. Click follow me. That's what they say. Because if you don't start following what's happening in America as we're going through this impeachment process for the president of the United States, who feels that he can represent in any manner that he chooses, and he can stray away from the rights, the civil rights that we've already won. And know that this internet and the 5G is going to bring so many other issues of facial recognition and tracking and sharing of information, because permissions are everything, and you don't necessarily have to have the permission to stream. I know that because you have to know that it takes knowledge to sustain oneself in a manner and be online and share information and build capacity and talk about relevant issues that affect local communities. Who says we're even talking about it? But I think we are. But we're operating in little tiny small silos, and we have no way to build capacity simply because the organizations that were used to generate building capacity in the past are so intertwined in themselves in building one's position of wealth and sustaining one's family. I don't even know what to say, but it's not helping the community. We have the most homeless people, and we have the most incarcerated people. As a people, Black people, we have African Americans who have generated wealth and have no children and have no engagement in the community. And we have totally failed services for people who are unaware of the level of advocacy one must do to ensure sustainability of one's family. Education is just not you just show up and drop your kid off. It's really not. It's to ensure that your kid or your child or the kiddo, however people want to reserve, or we could choose to call children scholars, young scholars, but it really is how we see them. And that was my dilemma, and trying to understand what's going on here in Clark County, Las Vegas, Nevada. I went to a conference yesterday, and it was in regards to the Promise Zone money or funding that was allocated for Black boys and, under the Obama administration. But, Obama, the president, wrote Every Child Succeeds Act, and every state is implementing services. But, our current president, he's helping, I guess, but he's only helping if you know how to help. If you know how to engage also, then it helps, because he's putting all of the money targeted for all children, including poor children, into one pot so that they allocate the money equally. But you're still supposed to somehow generate or document that you're successful in creating avenues of support for all children, which I don't see. And I didn't see that in Sacramento. You only get what you understand you have an entitlement to. And where there is no support, it just doesn't exist. And so as an American citizen, and as I have raised my children, it's time for me to give back. And in my giving back, I want to educate other parents or other community members. I mean, because you can't go where I've been, and I can't take you where I've been, but I can share with you. And I have not created a book as of yet, as of the importance of parent involvement and parent engagement. I understand Dr. Umar Johnson is out there trying to talk about parent involvement from the perspective of what he understands, and that would be special education and the right of a parent to have an outside evaluation done under the federal regulations of special education. And so, this is something, it's like a power tool that a parent has a right to have. But know that it doesn't design the structure of services. That requires a whole level of engagement with family members and teachers and community partners to ensure that you can measure or monitor the benefit of support from special education. If you cannot read an IEP and the IEP does not represent a growth and development model for your student, then it's not happening. If there's no engagement as to a measurement or maintenance of effort to ensure that children are moving towards grade level proficiency, then you have accepted the other. How does it and how can it be that a child in special education would receive the letter grade of F? Wouldn't that say that the additional money that was allocated towards that student was unmanaged, or no services, or failure to comply with the goals were written? But if you let your goal be that 1 out of 2 tries you'll remember to bring your paper back, how does remembering to bring your paper back correlate with the goals that would be written under an academic goal, so that you would learn how to read or comprehend, or you would understand a certain segment or comprehension, or have to be able to analyze or create a thesis and the training that would go with that? You get nothing. As today, our children are disproportionately placed in special education, and they're placed there because the power tools necessary in special ed allow you to break it down and manage the support and the development of your child. But only you, as the parent, as the power player in this whole scenario of child rearing, can make a difference. So today is February 1st. It's a great day. I'm going to do this so-called almost 15 minutes here, and then I'm going to come back. I'm going to share this video and see if I can promote some more people to jump in, ask questions that I can answer, because simply I do have an opportunity, as my children have survived the menagerie of the burdensome education system, and it can happen, but failure should not be an option. So if your child is receiving the letter grade of F, I want you to join and follow me, ask questions as to how I can help and sustain and support you, and understanding what your role would be to ensure that the letter grade of F is not accepted in your journey of rearing your children. So I'm going to end the stream from right now and see how this all turns out. Thanks, and have a great day.